Now here's the truth. Most people don't want to hear people leave after the honeymoon phase because they weren't really in love with you. They were in love with the idea of you. They loved the way you made them feel. They loved the butterflies, the attention, the chase. But when that fades, when they gotta love the real you, with your flaws, your mood swings, your struggles, that's when the test begins. And let me drop this on you. If somebody walks away after the honeymoon phase, thank God. You didn't lose a real partner. You just lost somebody who was renting space in your life. See, real love is not about butterflies. Real love is about choosing each other on the days when it ain't easy. It's showing up when they're tired. It's sticking around when things get rough. It's building something that can survive storms. Stop crying over folks who leave after the spark dies. They were never supposed to stay. Don't beg anybody to love you past the fireworks. You are not a firework. You're a whole lighthouse. And the right one, the one who's meant for you, they won't leave after the honeymoon phase. They'll stay, they'll fight, they'll build because they see your worth beyond the shine. When two people fall in love, those first few months feel like magic. Everything seems exciting, every conversation feels electric, and even the smallest things they do make you smile. That's what we call the honeymoon phase, and while it feels beautiful, it's not the full picture of a relationship. That stage is like the trailer of a movie. It shows you the highlights, the best moments, the thrills. But just like a trailer, it doesn't show you the long storyline, the struggles, or the everyday grind that comes after. Too many people confuse that preview with the real deal, and that's why when the excitement fades, they think the relationship is over. See, in the honeymoon phase, everybody is on their best behavior. You laugh a little harder, you dress a little nicer, you let things slide that normally would bother you. You want to impress them, they want to impress you. But that's not who you really are every day. Eventually, life shows up, bills gotta be paid. Work stress kicks in, family drama pops up, the shine starts to wear off, and that's when you see the real person behind the charm. It's not that the love disappeared, it's that the reality finally arrived. And this is where most people get it wrong. They think, oh, it doesn't feel the same anymore, so maybe it's not love. But the truth is, that's when love is just beginning to be tested. The reason so many people leave after the honeymoon phase is because they were never ready for the whole movie. They were addicted to the highlight reel, not the everyday scenes. They wanted the fireworks, but not the quiet nights, the compliments, but not the arguments, the adventure, but not the responsibility. When the butterflies slow down, they assume the relationship has died. But in reality, that's when you're given a chance to build something deeper than butterflies, something based on commitment, trust, and real connection. Here's the truth. The honeymoon phase is supposed to fade. It's supposed to make room for something better. Because no couple can live forever in that high-energy, starry-eyed space. Life won't let you. And if the person with you can't handle that shift, if they can't stick around once the magic turns into reality, then they were never meant for the long haul. That's not your failure. It's just their limit. But if you're with someone who's willing to go past the preview, someone who doesn't walk away when the sparkle fades, that's when you know you've got something real. Because love isn't about staying in the trailer, it's about sitting through the whole movie together. The boring parts, the dramatic scenes, the ups, the downs, and yes, the moments that don't feel exciting at all. That's where love proves itself. So stop thinking the honeymoon is the whole story. It's just the opening chapter. The real story begins the day the honeymoon ends. One of the biggest reasons people leave after the honeymoon phase is because they stop putting in the effort they used at the beginning. In those early days, you go out of your way to impress your partner. You call just to hear their voice. You plan dates. You compliment them on their looks. You listen carefully when they talk. You show up with flowers. You dress sharp. You pay attention to the little details that make them feel special. That effort creates excitement. And that's why everything feels so alive during the honeymoon phase. But the problem is, too many people get comfortable. They start to think, I've already won them over, so I don't have to try anymore. That's when things start falling apart. Love doesn't die because time passes. It dies because effort disappears. The same way you water a plant to keep it alive, you gotta water your relationship. You can't just sit back and expect it to thrive on its own. A lot of people make the mistake of assuming that love should be effortless. They think, if it's meant to be, it'll just work. No, It works because you work on it. The truth is, love is a verb. It's action. And when that action stops, the connection weakens. Think about it. If your partner used to hear, "I love you," every day, and now it's barely once a month, how do you expect them to feel? If they used to get your undivided attention, but now all you do is scroll on your phone while they're talking, what does that say? It says that the fire you once started, you're now letting burn out. And once one person feels neglected, resentment creeps in. That's when people start questioning if the relationship is even worth it anymore. But here's the flip side. The effort doesn't have to be grand gestures. You don't need expensive gifts or big surprises every week. What keeps love alive is consistency in the small things. A kind word, a thoughtful text, a hug after a long day, a simple thank you for what they do. Effort is about reminding your partner they still matter even when life gets busy. When you keep making them feel seen, valued, and appreciated, that's what carries you past the honeymoon stage into lasting love. So the truth is, people don't really leave because the honeymoon ended. They leave because they stopped feeling chosen once the honeymoon ended. If you want to keep someone around, don't just give them effort in the beginning. Give it every day in small, intentional ways. Because love doesn't fade when the butterflies go away. It fades when the effort does. And the ones who understand that, they're the ones who make love last. Another truth about why people leave after the honeymoon phase is because they start showing their true selves, and sometimes that version doesn't match the person they pretended to be in the beginning. See, during the honeymoon stage, everybody's on their best behavior. You laugh at jokes that aren't even funny. You overlook flaws. You agree to things you don't even like just to make the other person happy. You're basically giving them the highlight reel, not the full movie. And in that moment, it feels amazing because both of you are caught up in the illusion. But as time passes, that mask starts to slip. You can only pretend for so long before the real you comes out. Maybe you're not as patient as you seem. Maybe you don't actually enjoy the things you once pretended to. Maybe you're more selfish, lazier, or more controlling than you let on. And once the other person sees the truth, they feel like they were sold a dream that doesn't exist. Nobody likes feeling tricked. It's like buying a car that looked perfect on the lot, but starts breaking down a week later. You feel messled and disappointment hits hard. The problem is, when people realize the person they fell for isn't really the person standing in front of them anymore, it shakes the whole foundation. That's when questions start. Did I ever know this person? Did they just play me? Did I fall in love with who they really are or who they pretended to be? That confusion leads to distance, and that distance often leads to the end. Now, let me be real with you. It's not about being perfect. Nobody's perfect. But it's about being honest from the beginning. If you're not naturally romantic, don't fake being romantic just to win someone over. If you don't like certain things, don't pretend you do, because at some point, your real self is going to show, and if it's completely different from what you introduced, it feels like betrayal. People leave after the honeymoon phase not because they don't want love, but because they wanted honesty. They wanted the person you really are, not the character you put on to impress them. And when that truth comes out too late, it hurts. Relationships built on truth, transparency, and acceptance last. The ones built on performance eventually fall apart. So the lesson here is simple. If you want love that lasts, you have to start with authenticity. Don't sell someone a fantasy, give them reality. The right person will appreciate who you truly are, flaws and all. But the wrong person will only fall for the mask. And when that mask comes off, that's why people walk away. Another truth about why people leave after the honeymoon phase is because they start showing their true selves. And sometimes that version doesn't match the person they pretended to be in the beginning. See, during the honeymoon stage, everybody's on their best behavior. You laugh at jokes that aren't even funny. You overlook flaws. You agree to things you don't even like just to make the other person happy. You're basically giving them the highlight reel, not the full movie. And in that moment, it feels amazing because both of you are caught up in the illusion. But as time passes, that mask starts to slip. You can only pretend for so long before the real you comes out. Maybe you're not as patient as you seemed. Maybe you don't actually enjoy the things you once pretended to. Maybe you're more selfish, lazier, or more controlling than you let on. And once the other person sees the truth, they feel like they were sold a dream that doesn't exist. Nobody likes feeling tricked. It's like buying a car that looked perfect on the lot, but starts breaking down a week later. You feel missiled and disappointment hits hard. The problem is, when people realize the person they fell for isn't really the person standing in front of them anymore, it shakes the whole foundation. That's when questions start. Did I ever know this person? Did they just play me? Did I fall in love with who they really are or who they pretended to be? That confusion leads to distance, and that distance often leads to the end. Now, let me be real with you. It's not about being perfect. Nobody's perfect. But it's about being honest from the beginning. If you're not naturally romantic, don't fake being romantic just to win someone over. If you don't like certain things, don't pretend you do. Because at some point, your real self is going to show, and if it's completely different from what you introduced, it feels like betrayal. People leave after the honeymoon phase, not because they don't want love, but because they wanted honesty. They wanted the person you really are, not the character you put on to impress them. And when that truth comes out too late, it hurts. Relationships built on truth, transparency, and acceptance last. The ones built on performance eventually fall apart. So the lesson here is simple. If you want love that lasts, you have to start with authenticity. Don't sell someone a fantasy, give them reality. The right person will appreciate who you truly are, flaws and all. But the wrong person will only fall for the mask. And when that mask comes off, that's why people walk away. Another big reason people leave after the honeymoon phase, because effort starts to fade. In the beginning, people go all out. Late night calls, surprise texts, flowers, compliments, dates, long talks about nothing. You make each other feel special every single day. That's why it feels magical at first. Because you're both pouring in energy, chasing each other, trying to win each other's heart. But as time passes, some people start to relax too much. They think, I already got them, so I don't need to try anymore. That's when the spark begins to die. See, love doesn't survive on autopilot. It requires the same effort that brought you together in the first place. But too often, couples stop doing the little things. They stop saying, good morning. With excitement, they stop asking how the other person's day went. They stop dressing up for each other. They stop putting in effort to make each other feel wanted. And over time, one or both partners begin to feel invisible, like they're no longer valued. That's when disappointment sets in. What people don't realize is that effort is the oxygen of relationships. Without it, love suffocates. You can't expect someone to stay when you stop giving them reasons to feel cherished. The honeymoon phase only feels amazing because effort is at its peak. But imagine if you carried even half of that same energy years later. Your partner would still feel like the most important person in the world. Now, here's the truth. Effort doesn't always mean grand gestures. It's not about spending money or making a huge show. Sometimes it's as simple as listening without distractions, holding hands when you walk together, leaving a note that says, I'm proud of you, cooking a favorite meal, or genuinely complimenting them. These things remind your partner, I still choose you. I still see you. I still care enough to show up. The danger comes when you start taking each other for granted. When you assume they'll always be there no matter what, that's when distance starts to grow. Because nobody wants to feel like they're an option, like the passion and pursuit died the moment commitment began. That's why so many relationships crumble after the honeymoon phase, because the fire goes out, not from lack of love, but from lack of effort. If you want your relationship to last beyond the excitement stage, you have to keep choosing effort even when life gets busy, even when things feel routine, even when you don't feel like it. Real love isn't just about falling in, it's about staying in. And staying in requires work. So the reason people leave after the honeymoon phase isn't always because the love wasn't real. It's because the effort wasn't sustained. Love without effort will always fade, but effort keeps love alive long after the butterflies are gone. Another truth about why people leave after the honeymoon phase is because they start expecting love to stay alive without growth. In the beginning, love feels fresh, exciting, and new. But as time goes on, life changes, careers get busier, responsibilities pile up, personalities evolve, and people discover new dreams. The problem is, many couples don't evolve together. One person keeps growing while the other stays the same, or they grow in two different directions. That gap gets wider and wider until one day, the relationship doesn't feel like home anymore. See, love is not a one-time achievement. You don't just get someone and then stop becoming better for them. You have to keep building, Keep learning, keep adapting together. When people stop growing together, the bond weakens. One partner might start feeling like we don't talk about the same things anymore, or we don't laugh like we used to, or we don't dream the same way we did. And that feeling of disconnection slowly pulls people apart. A relationship is like a garden. You can't just plant seeds, water them once, and expect a harvest every year. You have to keep tending it, pulling out weeds, watering, adding sunlight, nurturing it as seasons change. If you don't, it doesn't matter how beautiful the garden started, it will eventually die. That's what happens when couples don't grow. They stop putting in the work to adapt to each new chapter of life together. Growth in a relationship doesn't mean huge, dramatic changes. Sometimes it's as simple as trying new experiences together. Traveling somewhere new, taking up a hobby, reading a book together, or just having deep conversations about dreams and fears. Growth means you're not just sharing a house or a bed, you're still building a life. And when both people are committed to evolving, the relationship keeps feeling alive because you're discovering new versions of each other instead of holding on to the past. But when growth stops, boredom and resentment step in. One partner might start looking elsewhere for excitement, or they feel like they've outgrown the relationship. Not because they wanted to, but because the connection didn't keep up with who they were becoming. That's why so many people leave after the honeymoon phase, not because they didn't love each other, but because they didn't keep growing together. The real key is understanding that love isn't just about passion. It's about partnership. You have to support each other's growth, celebrate each other's wins, and push each other to become better. If you can't grow together, you will grow apart. So when life gets busy, when years go by, when routines settle in, ask yourself, are we still growing together? Are we still building something new? Because if the answer is yes, then love doesn't just survive after the honeymoon phase, it thrives. Let me tell you something. Love after the honeymoon phase ain't about fireworks every day. It's about consistency, growth, and effort. People don't leave because the love wasn't real. They leave because somewhere along the way, somebody stopped showing up. Somebody stopped growing. Somebody thought the relationship could survive on autopilot. But love don't work like that. You've got to keep watering it, keep feeding it, keep putting in the work. If you want it to last, you've got to grow together, laugh together, fight through storms together, and never stop choosing each other, even on the hard days. So the truth is this: the honeymoon phase might fade, but real love, the kind that stands the test of time, gets stronger, deeper, and more beautiful when you build it every single day. If you don't want to lose it, don't get lazy. Keep investing, keep evolving, and keep reminding your partner why you chose them in the first place. That's how you keep love alive long after the honeymoon's over.